In the winter of 1610, soldiers stormed a remote castle in the Kingdom of Hungary. What they claimed to find inside would shock Europe for centuries. Young girls, dead bodies, and a countess whose name would become legend. Her name was Elizabeth Bathory, a noblewoman, a mother, a widow, and a woman accused of killing hundreds of girls. But who was she really? Was she history's most prolific female serial killer? Or was she the victim of political conspiracy? Tonight, we investigate her life, from her childhood to the accusations that sealed her fate. A child born into power. Elizabeth Bathory was born in 1560 into one of the most powerful noble families in Hungary. The Bathory family produced princes, cardinals, and even a king of Poland, Stephen Bathory. Power was not something Elizabeth earned. She was born into it. But her childhood was far from peaceful. Historians believe she suffered from seizures, possibly epilepsy. Some accounts suggest violent episodes and intense mood swings. She grew up in a world of brutality. 16th century Eastern Europe was defined by war, especially against the Ottoman Empire. Executions were public spectacles. Torture was normalized. Violence was not hidden from children of noble families. At just 15 years old, Elizabeth was married to Count Ferenc Nadasdy, a powerful war hero known as the Black Knight of Hungary. And this is where the story begins to darken. Marriage to a warrior. Ferenc Nadasdy was often away at war. He fought brutal campaigns against the Ottomans, and historical accounts suggest he used torture methods on prisoners. Some sources claim he shared these torture techniques with Elizabeth. Whether that is true or exaggerated, one thing is certain. Elizabeth was left alone for long periods at Castle Cactus. She managed estates. She supervised servants. She held immense authority. And power without supervision can change a person. Over the years, rumors began circulating. Servant girls were disappearing. At first, it was easy to explain. Disease was common. Peasants were invisible to the elite. Few questioned a countess. But whispers grew louder. First accusations. By the early 1600s, Elizabeth was a widow. Her husband had died in 1604. Without him, she became politically vulnerable. Now alone, wealthy, and powerful, she controlled vast lands and fortune. And then came the allegations. Local pastors reported strange burials. Villagers whispered of screams from the castle. Families claimed their daughters never returned from service. According to witness testimonies collected later, girls were beaten, starved, burned, and tortured. Some statements described horrifying cruelty. But here's where we pause. Most of these testimonies were gathered after her arrest, and many were secondhand accounts. No trial ever occurred. This detail matters. The investigation. In 1610, King Matthias II ordered an official investigation. The man assigned to lead it was Count Georgi Thurzo. Over 300 witnesses were reportedly interviewed. But historians note something important. Very few claim to have directly seen Elizabeth kill anyone. Most testimonies were based on rumor. When authorities entered Castle Cactus, they claimed to find dead and dying girls. Elizabeth was arrested immediately, but instead of being publicly tried, she was confined to her castle. Why? Because she was nobility. Executing her would disgrace powerful families. So instead, she was walled inside her own room. Alive, but imprisoned. The number, hundreds or myth. The number most associated with Elizabeth Bathory is 650 victims. This number comes from testimony claiming a servant mentioned a ledger. However, that ledger was never produced. Modern historians debate heavily. Some believe she may have been responsible for the deaths of dozens of girls. Others argue she was framed. Why would she be framed? Because she was wealthy, widowed, and politically inconvenient. Confiscating her land would benefit the crown. And after her arrest, much of her property shifted control. Was she a sadistic killer? Or was she eliminated through scandal? The truth may lie somewhere in between. Her final years. Elizabeth Bathory remained imprisoned in her castle for 4 years. No trial, no public defense, no formal conviction. In 1614, she was found dead in her chamber. She was 54 years old, and with her death, the mystery solidified into legend. Legend versus history. Over time, her story evolved. Writers added dramatic details. One of the most famous myths claims she bathed in the blood of virgins to preserve her youth. But historians agree. There is no contemporary evidence of blood bathing. That detail appeared more than 100 years later. Yet the legend persisted. Today, Elizabeth Bathory remains one of the most controversial figures in true crime history. Was she a calculated serial killer who exploited her power? Or a woman destroyed by politics and fear? What we know is this. Hundreds of testimonies accused her. Dozens of bodies were reportedly found, and her name became immortal. But absolute proof? Still debated. History remembers her as the Blood Countess, the woman accused of killing hundreds of girls. But perhaps the most chilling truth is not how many died. It's that in a world of unchecked power, no one truly knows where legend ends and reality begins.